Hey adventurers, welcome to the crew. I'm Sealord Janda, and this is my Let's Play of Pillars of Eternity. In the last episode, we progressed Sgani's personal quest and recruited our newest companion, Haravius, and we're now headed into Dyrford Village to see if we can progress the main quest a little bit. Onwards to Dyrford Village. Find someone in town who knows about the ruins. Ah, that's right. Mysterious ruins somewhere outside of
I
Dyrford.
often dreamed of visiting the
Oh, yeah.
republics. There, at least, the people value trade.
Trade of all things, it's true. And competition between the republics keeps us strong.
Rauatai is a unified nation, with fleeter ships. Someday it may prove a worthy competitor.
There's more to dominating trade than fast ships. Maybe you could write a poem to help your countrymen figure it out.
Oh, alright. Bit of a rivalry there. Let me get the village map open. That being said, it doesn't look like there's too much. Well, actually, there's enough to have some pretty fair, there's not a whole lot of buildings in here, but pretty much every single one of them is relevant. Like, there's literally 2 normal houses, and everything else, temple, mill, inn, curriary? I don't actually know what that is, but it's something. Apothecary, arms and armory. Is Grieving Mother a quest marker or a companion? Because that's usually how the companions show up, but it's not exactly a name, really, is it? Oh, what's up here, lads? What's going on, Medrith? An elf idles by the road, watching the village across the river. He nods as you approach, and the cowled figure standing near him falls silent.
Greetings.
Greetings, friend. A small smile forms as he eyes you. I've heard of you. Word has it you've been busy in Defiance Bay. He draws closer. I'm busy too, and eager to finish my business and get back to the city. What business would that be? Haven't you heard? There's a murderer on the loose, said to have gone mad with grief and strangled a dozen healthy children when her own was hollowborn. He nods at the figures with him. We've come all the way from Defiance Bay to bring her to justice. Alright, what you standing around out here for then? He nods across the river. She's hiding out in the village. We'd go in after her ourselves, but the problem is she knows our faces. There's no telling what she'd do if she saw us coming, and we'd like to avoid any further unnecessary bloodshed. He leans closer. Her name's Nifra. She's an Orlan. We want to get her out of town so we can deal with her cleanly. She knows we're looking for her, but if someone were to convince her that it's safe to leave... so why are you 5 assholes here and not the Crucible Knights? Intellect 14. The powers that be want to keep things quiet, for obvious reasons. Better not to raise a fuss, certainly better not to startle her into doing something drastic. That's not a convincing answer. She's a mass murderer, why not? What's wrong with causing a fuss? She murdered 9 people, allegedly. I'm not so sure about this. He lays a strong hand on your shoulder. A mad woman like that is everybody's problem, friend. Just keep an eye out. If you come across her, remember what I told you. I promise I'll make it worth your while. What'd she do exactly? Responsible for the murder of all those babies in Defiance Bay, remember? Terrible thing.
Good day to you.
Pay, all right. Okay, we'll see about that. I'm not too convinced these guys are on the up and up. Let's go into the Temple of Barath. I think this is the death god, basically, so... Alright, nothing too extensive in here. That's stealing. Alright, who are you, Harbinger
Out
Bandlar?
with you! I already told you what... I'm sorry. I thought you were one of those ruffians.
Oh, somebody's been beating on the priest. That's unfortunate. Looks like someone's beating us here.
How may I help you?
What happened to you?
I never saw their faces. Strange hooded men asking about those ruins. Cleoban Relag. Most of the brigands who come through here asking about the ruins are looking for a few ancient trinkets. But these people knew the name, and they were in a hurry.
I guess the leaden key has beaten us here.
They wanted to
we'll have
know
put a
where
stop to that.
Cleobon Relag was. I tried to keep it from them, but I couldn't hold out forever. I don't know what they were up to, but it can't be good.
No, it cannot be. Olaf looks at you, frowning. That does sound like the leaden key, doesn't it? Is there something else I can help you with? Yeah, where do I find those ruins?
The Glonfathan tribe that guards the ruins will kill anyone who trespasses there. And they'll retaliate against us, too, if history is any indication. We've had too many fortune seekers stir up trouble of late. If I'm to tell you, I'll need to know your reason for wanting to go.
Yeah, there's a dangerous plot unfolding there involving those guys who just beat you up.
If that's the case, then we may already have trouble headed our way. I'll have to take you at your word. You'll find Cleobon Relag here. Whatever trouble you find there, please end it quietly and try to stay out of the ruins.
Well, I'll do my best. So, what's the deal in Dyrford here? Folk here tend to keep to themselves, as they do in most towns this deep in the Dyrwood. They're suspicious of travelers, but with all the brigands and refugees moving through the area, who can blame them? So this is the Temple of Barath. Barath is the most universal of all the gods. It oversees portals and cycles of all kinds, even life and death itself. Under Barath, an ending is merely a passage to another beginning. Barath has many representations across time and across cultures. Around the Dyrwood, you'll commonly see it depicted as the Pallid Knight or the Usher. The Glonfathans, however, know it as Bunin i Anku and Anku i Bunin. Tell me about the Pallid Knight. She's one of the youngest manifestations of Barath, but a familiar one nonetheless. Stories describe her as a gaunt knight in black armor, with black eyes, black hair, and milk-pale skin. She demands an impossible toll from travelers who've tarried too long on her lord's road. Some challenge her, only to slay themselves in the process. Who's the Usher? The Kith have written stories, songs, and poems about the Usher for centuries. Sometimes he's folk, sometimes dwarf, and sometimes merely a walking skeleton. He never speaks, but he guides the way to death and the next life. He also creates the circumstances for the wayward to stumble into their own graves. No, just a typical Charon type, then. I've never heard of Bunin i Anku and Anku i Bunin. It means life in death and death in life, respectively. You see them as two skeletal figures, one male and one female. Explorers have found them carved opposite one another in doorways, but I know of no particular legends that speak of them. Well, thanks for the info. Of course, Barath was once more widely worshipped in this area, but it is a silent god. He smiles sadly. These days, people find themselves in need of clearer answers. Farewell, farewell. Okay, well, he was helpful at least. I don't know where. I guess it's on our map now, probably.
Alof. Never before have I met an Adiran man so hesitant to speak his mind.
I'm not hesitant, I just, like to consider my words carefully.
You should really hear yourself talk, amigo.
What's all this? Golden Celery. Those are going to be people with souls. I'll read them in a minute. Okay, that's as far as we can go up here. It does circle around back to the other side of town, but yeah. Alright, let's read these souls. Vasily Raskolnikov. You see a Zorit gurgle gently as it falls to the ground, the victim of a small blade to the throat. A tall man in dark armor wipes the blade clean on his cloak before padding onwards towards the next guard. Another flash and the second Zorit is down, then the next and the next. Finally, a scout spots him and raises a shout. Between one step and another, the man smoothly deposits the knife in his boot and throws two longswords, decapitating the closest Zorip in the process. He makes no sound but the sleek whistle of his blades as they pass through monster after monster, before one lodges in the skull of a particularly hard-headed specimen. Unable to break it free, he discards his other sword and reaches for his spellbook. A cone of flames erupts from his hand, boiling the skin from three agonized Zoribs nearby and causing the remainder to scatter. The earth shakes, and spikes of rock begin to peer the surface as the nearby Zorab High Priest attacks. A moment too late as the bespelled man moves unnaturally quickly from ground to ground, attacking the remaining Zorabs with sword and spell. Sweat burns his eyes as he conjures an enormous ball of fire, sending it screaming through the air towards the High Priest and to remaining followers. Nothing but charred corpses remain after it passes. He falls to his knees, panting, almost 400 Zoribs fallen around him. Just as he moves to get up, the ground begins to shake once more. Twice, 3 times. Huge footsteps, and then he dives behind a rock spike. A returning volley of fire singeing his cloak. The Drake has noticed him. Okay, so he's just a badass in his past lives. Artavan Selwyntis. You see a fallen log lying on the moss-covered ground. The surrounding woods are quiet, everything calm and undisturbed. A small bird lands on one end of the log, warming itself in the sun. This man emerges from the trees, moving quickly but not quite running. He places each foot with deliberate precision, making almost no noise. He jumps, landing on the log, and runs along its length. Only when he reaches the end does the bird take flight, startled as if it didn't realize he was there. He jumps down from the log, landing next to a tree with a small branch jutting out from it just above waist level. He grabs the branch and pulls himself forward, giving him a short-lived burst of speed. He's coming to the edge of the forest, and buildings can now be seen through the trees. Sounds of life make their way through the air into his ears. He leans forward, running to push his way through the tree line and onto the road beyond. He pulls himself up short and looks around, breathing heavily from the exertion. He doesn't seem to find what he's looking for, takes a place leaning on a nearby building. Several minutes pass and he smiles, pushing himself off the wall and walking out to meet a figure running up the road, breathing heavily and shaking its head. He informs the figure that he's gonna have to try harder if there's any chance of beating him. He puts an arm around the other man's shoulder, reminds him there was an ale at stake, and says it's about time to pay up. Okay, the only thing that's unclear to me is whether he cheated by going through the forest or not. Because the other figure took the road. But anyway, he's fast. Halsatre. You see this woman lounging in a large divan. She takes dates from an ornate glass bowl and stuffs them absent-mindedly into her mouth while she stares out the window. She's unkempt, half-dressed, and occasionally yawns, seeming bored with her surroundings. Her room shares the same unkempt look, as if it hasn't been cleaned in weeks. A layer of dust covers everything. Clothes and partially eaten food litter the floor, and the furniture's in need of upkeep and repair. A knock comes from the door to her chamber, and she lets out a quiet grunt, ignoring it. She grabs another handful of dates and starts throwing them into the air, one at a time, attempting to catch them in her mouth. She frequently misses, the dates bouncing to the floor, forming a makeshift ring around the divan. The knock comes again, and she jumps, missing yet another date, which hits her on the forehead before rolling away. She grunts and looks at the door, exhaling sharply through her nose. A muffled, distant yell comes from somewhere outside the room. She rolls over on her side, facing away from the door, and pulls a pillow over her head, trying to drown out the noise. She lies there for several minutes, eyes slowly closing as she slips into sleep. The door opens, and someone enters the room, hesitantly making his way over the floor to stand by the divan. He reluctantly reaches out and touches her shoulder, shaking it gently. The pillow falls from her head, and she turns to the man, a confrontational look on her face. "Mistress," he says, kneeling before her, "we need your help." The woman sighs heavily, rolling her eyes, and starts to stand. She grabs one last handful of dates and walks from the room, chewing noisily. Alright then. Into the village proper. Nice bridge. Nice mill. Looks like a pretty prosperous village. It's like midnight, but I'm sure that won't affect their operations. No word traveler, you say?
Good day, stranger.
Guard. The guard sighs with relief as he looks at you. What are the odds? Stuck in this backwater only to meet the famed champion of Defiance Bay. Barath's wheel brings mercy today, indeed. His demeanor grows serious. Perhaps you could help. I don't suppose you saw a young elven noblewoman on the road. I'm stuck in this wretched place with the rest of my unit until we find her. I haven't seen anyone like that. Same as everyone else in this blazing village. He sighs. Perhaps you could go speak with Lord Harrond at the inn anyway. He'll be grateful for the assistance, and it could be the locals will open up to you about his daughter's disappearance more than they have to us. Oh boy, Lord Heron's daughter's missing, huh? Yeah, well, we'll talk to him about it. Why are we damning the gods, sir? Rumbald. The man paces angrily in front of a wrecked animal pen, his sun-weathered face twisted with ire. He's so wrapped up in his fury that he doesn't seem to notice you. Galloway's slobbering beasts, blazing bloody effigy, thrice damned salty wench and her soggy... What seems to be the trouble? That monster stole my pigs, traipsed into the village, tore down my pen, and made off with the whole damned herd. Just left a few little runts, and what am I supposed to do with them? What are you talking about? An ogre moved into the area not long ago. Folk had been seeing glimpses and tracks out in the wood, but it seemed to be staying away from town. Or so we all thought until it made off with my pigs. Now everyone's afraid it's going to develop a taste for kith if it haven't already. Did you see the ogre do it? What else would have destroyed my pen and made off with my herd? And at the same time, the rest of the village is seeing a 10-foot monster in the forest. Well, it wouldn't hold up in court necessarily, but it makes sense. I know it's too late to get my pigs back, but it set my mind at ease to see that thing's head shorn from its neck. In fact, you bring its ugly pate to me and I'll trade you for something that's of less use to a farmer like me than to a rowdy-looking sort like yourself. Okay. What do you know about the ogre? Well, it's the same as any other, I'm sure. A big, ugly son of a bitch with a nasty temper and an appetite to match. Triggle could tell you more. He claims to have seen it in the wood. You can find him in his shop right by the broken tower. Need something else? You know where an Orlan named Nifri is? Never even heard of her. Yeah, they're probably covering for her, but who knows. Okay, there's an ogre's lair. It's probably not on this map. Let's check out the mill. The mill slowly grinds away at a trough of grain. And there's no actual mill owner in here, so stealing. I don't even know why this is accessible, really. No, there's a lot of hollow ore in there. Sorry, buddy. Ugh. Well, they're struggling, but nothing too interesting in here. To the inn, then? It's a big-looking inn.
I'm here.
The Drakajan Inn. There's also Smith, Apothecary, and Courier around, and whoever grieving mother is. Oh, is that the person we're looking for? Maybe. Well, in first. Mostly villagers. Apparently they're tired of the lord here. Yeah. This table's been scarred and stained from decades of use. Yeah, seems like they're pretty tired of the...
Yes?
Yes?
This lord looking for his daughter. Alright, who's Sid?
I just
Hail,
want to
traveler.
find her.
A redhead
Surely even
stands
you
by the
can
fire,
understand
tuning her
that.
lute and plucking its strings. She hums snatches of a melody as she goes. First time at the Drakajan? Normally I'd have a song ready, but I haven't quite worked out the tune yet. I'm writing some chants about the founding of this inn. Say, you interested in the story? I haven't finished the chants, but I could tell you about it all the same. Sure, let's have it. Oh, excellent. These rustic fables are always great fun. Let me get out something to write with. Palagina rolls her golden eyes and exhales for an excessively long time through her nose. It was built in the time of Hadred's rebellion, and Adiran Lady Thenu once had a keep here. One of the towers still stands, but the rest is said to be buried under the village. Anyway, she stuck to the side of the Empire, and a contingent of Duke Hadred's Knights of the Crucible helped the farmers and colonists in the area turn her keep to rubble. This inn was the first building that sprang up from the ruin, built with some of the same bricks the colonists had pulled from the Lady Thenu's castle, they say. Supposedly, the quarterstaff of her chief wizard even got lost into the construction, mortared into a wall or nailed under a floorboard. Anyway, the inn was supposed to be a haven and a meeting place while the locals built their new town. I take it that didn't go well? Dyrwoodens are an ornery lot, and the more these new neighbors met, the more they argued. They realized they didn't agree on much beside ousting the old lord. The biggest divide was over the Glanfathans and their nearby ruins. Hadrid's knights and their supporters wanted to keep the peace, but a group of misfits with more anarchic leanings had formed in town wanted to go after the tribes the same way they'd gone after their lord. Soon the villagers were fighting with each other as much as with the Adirans. In the end, memories of the Broken Stone War and the War of Black Trees were fresh enough that the Duke's soldiers won the day. Most of the other villagers came around eventually, but some of the core troublemakers left to join the front lines of the War of Defiance, and others I've heard found their way into the Guided Compass, the most forward-looking of the Glanfathan tribes. I don't know if I believe that part myself, but it makes a good story. She points to the east wall. There's a portrait of one of the chief rabble-rousers and his rival in the peacekeeping fashion. Someone's idea of a joke. I don't think they were particularly amused. I've kind of read about these wars, but tell me. Broken Stone War. Oh, that was the first major conflict between the original Adiran settlers and the Glanfathans. Happened 3 years into colonization when some farmers knocked over an Adra Menhir that was part of an Ongwith in ruin. The war didn't last long, but it spread quickly and claimed thousands. In the early weeks, most of the colonists didn't even realize there was a war going on until the Glanfathan raiders hit their villages. There had been small, spontaneous skirmishes between the colonists and the locals before then, but this was organized, and it was the start of decades of violence between the colonists and the Glanfathans. As you can see, Dyrwood's full of history, even in little villages like this. About the War of Black Trees. It started back in the colonial days, almost 30 years after the Broken Stone War. Even though isolated conflicts still broke out between the settlers and the Glanfathans, both sides had officially agreed to peace. Edrong Hadrid, Adna's father, was Gref at the time. As part of peace negotiations, he'd signed treaties prohibiting Adiran colonists from looting Onwicklin ruins. However, he'd been unable to outlaw the use of captured Glanfathans as slaves. Not the greatest. Okay, I see. Indeed, the taking of Glanfathan slaves had continued to be a source of conflict, and it came to a head when Imperial agents, aided by certain earls in the Dyrwood, began looting the ruins again. See, the Empire had never actually agreed to Hadrid's treaties on the matter, and the recent secession of the Valian Republics likely left them eager to weaken Hadrid's position. The looting sparked a brutal slave uprising and a guerrilla campaign among the Glanfathans. Edrong Hadrid was too old to lead forces into battle, and so he sent his son Admeth. Admeth made a costly but effective decision that ended the war faster than anyone could have imagined. He burned the forest near the Isheen River to keep the Glanfathan warbands from retreating. Thousands of Glanfathans died, and as Admeth repeated his scourged earth tactics in the following months, he wore down the remainder of their forces. To this day, over 150 years later, there are still sections of the Dyrwood where the trees are nothing but bare, charred trunks. Fair enough. Okay, so that's just a bard.
We're decent folk, my lord. Perhaps you should leave and check the wilds.
The portrait depicts a man and a woman dressed in a deer garb that would have been in style a century ago. The heavy frame has been battered, and the plate that once bore the patron's name has been scratched out. They share a passionate embrace which seems at odds with the disgust on their faces. Well, that is kind of funny, actually. Those would be the two who were at odds with each other. Heavy, sweet perfumes emanate from the barrels. The stave joints are stained dark brown and dull purple. You the cook? Yep. Sorry, I'm just examining the kitchen. Just adventurer stuff, don't worry about it. Hey, Dingler, what's going on?
Well met, friend.
The innkeeper digs inside a mug with a dirty rag. His eyes under his thick brows are tired but watchful. He gives you a quick nod as you approach the bar. Don't see many travelers these days. Something I can do for you? What's this thing with the nobleman about? He looks up from polishing his tankard and glowers at the lord. Folk round here's decent. They mind their own business. You want to stick your nose in it? Go talk to him yourself. Hey, bromade. Yeah, you would think. They burned a lot of forest, though. Maybe it took a while to reach Germany. Alright, I have questions. He runs his rag around the rim of the mug. Ask. He's not going to appreciate the first question. They're hiding that, too. Tell me about the village. I'll walk from one bridge to the next, and you've seen it. We're quiet, hard-working folk. We keep to ourselves and don't take to being pushed around. He glares at the well-dressed man standing off to the side. Yeah, they don't appreciate him, clearly. Used to be a castle here, built by some family of Adiran Thanes back when the Empire first came. Only one tower is still standing, and that's part of Trigill's shop now. Sid, that bard by the fire, could spin you the yarn if you're so inclined. Now, what kind of people live here? Not many anymore. Hard to keep people around when everyone here is birthing a Hollowborn. But we got a few who stick around and do business. Trigill's the leather courier. Oh, that's leather, that's what that is, okay. Handina crafts potions, and Winfrith trades in general goods. Rumbald's a pig farmer. Or was, anyway. Tell me about Triggle. He's a courier. Treats leather, makes armor, and a few other goods with it. Problem is, the smell of tallow and deer shit tends to put people off their food, and his shop's right next door. Now, this is why they exile leather makers to the, like, outskirts. Tanners, that is. Alright, how about Hadina? Lady's a clever hand with potions and poultices. Got herself into trouble with a nest of worms or so, I hear. Her cart's on the east end of town. Winfrith? Been around even longer than I have. Nice enough fellow, but never could find his way to the end of a sentence. His shop's across the square. What happened to Rumbald's pigs? A damn ogre carried him off. Now he squeals more than his herd ever did. He shrugs. It is rotten luck. What else? You don't see a lot of travelers? Of course not. Why would they come here? We got bandits on the road and an ogre in the forest, as that yapping fool Rumbald will tell you. Worse yet, hasn't been a healthy child born here in over a year. Most kith that come here is just passing through. About that ogre. You don't hardly see him this close to town. Ogres and kith don't mix well. Ugly bastards, but they're smart enough to know that much. You want to know more? Talk to Rumbald. I already did. He told me to talk to other people. You see Nifra? Twitchy lady, that one. Oh, jerks his head up the stairs. Okay, he's not going to hide her from me. Okay. Alright. Food, drink. Why does every damn shop in the land sell dragon meat? We're actually rich enough we could buy it, just for the hell of it. Maybe once before the end of the game. I can only buy one of these, I think. Yeah. We can sleep in the stables. We can sleep in the worm's nest, or the drake's den, or the dragon's lair. I see they're all dragon themed. No, I don't need to sleep right now. Hire adventurers. He doesn't really sell anything else of any note. Beef loaf, Ixametal, etc. Okay. You're just gonna be a soul read? Yep. Nanaoki Faral. You see this woman running through the streets of a small city. She pushes her way through the crowd, glancing over her shoulder as she does. Her clothing is torn and her hair disheveled. Even though she appears to be attempting to escape from someone, her eyes sparkle with joy. Her mouth is pulled back in an enormous grin, and occasionally a small giggle works its way out of her throat. While looking over her shoulder, she runs headlong into a well-dressed man standing in one of the market stalls. The moment she sees the man she's run into, her face changes. Gone is the glee, replaced by fear. Her grin twists into a frown, her bottom lip quivering. The man, seeing her appearance, expresses concern for her well-being, and she leans against him, weaving a tale of a brutish man with wandering hands. As she speaks, her own hands travel over his body, seeking and exploring. There's a shout from across the crowd, and they both look over to see a large, angry man approaching, roughly pushing his way through the crowd that separates them. She stiffens against him, feigning fear. The man tells her not to be afraid and steps in front of her to block the path of the figure who's coming near. The woman smiles, slowly backing away from them both, then lets out a gleeful cackle. Her protector turns, confused, and sees her departing, laughing and shaking a coin purse. She spins and races off through the crowded marketplace. Confused, the man feels at his belt. His face hardens and he yells, joining the chase after the laughing woman, losing herself in the crowd. Okay, that woman's a thief, but don't worry about it too much. This scolder head looks as old as the inn. Its leathery skin is cracked and bleached from years of exposure. Alright, what's the deal, Lord Harrond? You're harassing this whole town? The man wears Idir-style robes, simple but elegant. His fine leather shoes look like they were made for padding around indoors, yet they're caked with mud. He yanks at a lock of hair twined around his silk-gloved finger. His fine features are etched with anxiety.
My child is out there. Do they not understand?
Okay, well, I'm glad he's legitimately concerned, at least.
My lord, we're doing everything we can. Unfortunately, these villagers...
Beasts take them all. I don't care how you do it, but find her.
Take it your child's missing?
Yes, Lady Alice.
My daughter.
He tugs the fingertips of his gloves.
I've asked around, but nobody in this mud hole has any concerns beyond their swine. They turn my men away like beggars and seem downright pleased to be of no use. But you're not one of my soldiers. And you look like you're used to getting your hands dirty, if you don't mind my saying so.
No, it's true, it's true, it's true. His guard leans in. My lord, an artist. Heron raises a hand to silence the man. If you find her, he nibbles the thumb of one silk glove, tell her I won't be upset with her. She can come back, all will be well. I just want to make sure my Elise, my child, is safe. Nothing in the world is more important to me. A few questions.
Elise. Of course.
Could you describe her? She's a striking young woman. Bears more resemblance to her mother than to me. She has auburn hair and delicate, well-bred features. She must be, 28 or 29 now. Bruh. She's your damn daughter. Why don't you know her exact age? Okay, well. How'd she disappear? We'd stopped in Dyrford for a few days. On the fourth evening here, I was making plans to continue our journey. Lady Elise was feeling unwell, went to bed. When I retired a few hours later, I found that she'd vanished. None of my men had seen her go, and no one at the inn knew where she was. Since then, my people have been combing the village, but we've yet to find a clue, and the locals have been no help. Okay. She ran away, buddy, but, why were you here? It was merely a stop along the way to Aina's rest. She took ill shortly before our arrival, so it seemed prudent to allow her a few days to recover. What's in Aina's rest? He frowns as if about to protest, but he gives in with a sigh. Lady Elise has reached an age where it is prudent for her to marry. Given this legacy business, I can't let her fertile years slip by, nor do I want her womb to fester in the presence of so many hollowborn. Geez, buddy, can't imagine why she ran away. I feel like there'd be more suitors in other towns, New Haemar or New Yarma. No? You think I haven't considered that? Arranging a suitable match is difficult. The best prospect for my child lay in Aina's rest. Okay, where's the whole rest of your family? Surely they'd like to be at the wedding? Lady Heron is ill-suited for travel, I'm afraid, and unfortunately Elise has few other close relatives. My sister and her husband, Elise aunt and uncle, of course, have been visiting at Deer these past months. And as for siblings, Elise has none. My wife has only given birth to hollowborn. Since Elise, that is. Okay, going back to your daughter. I guess that's kind of it. Heard you arguing with the innkeeper.
A petty, small-minded man, just like the rest of them around here. I've been paying him an honest fee for board and bed, and yet he can't be bothered to stir himself to concern for my Elise.
Yeah, I think they're pissed about your army being all over town, buddy, but this is why I'm hoping you can help. He tugs at a lock of hair again. I should never have trusted these people around my child. That kind of attitude also. I doubt it's them.
I'm Lord Nestor Harrond of Defiance Bay. My family has been prominent there since Imperial times. Our primary estate is on the outskirts of Brackenbury, but we have holdings in New Haemar as well. Those went to my sister and her husband.
Alright, fine. Yeah, this guy's daughter definitely ran away, but we'll find her anyway. And help her escape, probably. This painting depicts a forested ravine somewhere in the Living Lands. This painting portrays the expansive foothills below the mountains of White March. Oh, hey Nifri. Alright, we'll talk to her in a second. We're looking for her for several reasons. Why is there a de Medici in here? The glass of this window's broken. Warped, knotted planks have been nailed over it. I think you're just a soul read. Yeah. You see a man, eyes tight on a couple down a cobblestone road. He moves a little too obviously, a little too naturally, and his eyes never leave her mussed curls as he shadows them from building to building. The woman laughs drunkenly, hand entwined within another belonging to a sharp-nosed noble. Flawless doublet, slightly too small for his generous frame. She brushes against him as they move, clearly far too intimate for her shadow's liking. His eyes narrow to angry slits as the couple slip into an opulent doorway and the nobleman's hand slips down her dress. Her breath shortens into gasps, and she leans into him further, moaning. The spectator pauses, mouth pressed shut, veins bulging. He slides along the wall, dagger in hand, and just as the woman bites into the nobleman's doublet, he steps out. It's over in moments. He closes his eyes, dagger slipping from his blood-soaked slicked hand, and bolts. A lot of people's souls did a lot of murder, gotta say. Daorn. You see a tall figure pacing the edges of a carpet, corner to corner, fingers twitching in irritation. The sounds of battle grow ever closer, snaking its way through caves and corridors, past doors and soldiers, and the mage paces. Throwing his door open, he strides through the refurbished cave, taking scrolls from shelves and demanding potions from terrified grunts. Kicking a fallen chair from his path, he returns to his room, pacing, readying himself. As the enemy grows closer and closer, he begins casting. Spell after spell, defenses, additional vigor, traps. Just as his skin hardens into metal, they stride in, swords flying and arrows buzzing. Last chance to rethink this, he says. An arrow whistles by his head in answer. He sighs and his lips thin with effort as he begins his onslaught. There are 6 of them, but soon there are 4, and 3, and 1. For the last he takes a dagger to be sure, throwing it directly into the Orlan's temple. The man topples. None get back up. The mage barks into the hallway, receiving naught but silence in response. Frustrated, he begins to dispose of the bodies, the last person standing. Oh man, it sucks when adventurers kill all your goons. I feel you, buddy. Okay, locked chest.
Let's see this stubborn bastard.
I feel like
It's
he'd be
done.
stealing to take out of it. Nope, apparently nobody cares. 270 copper.
Let's see this stubborn
this one?
bastard. It's done.
28 gold and some leather armor. Okay. Now, let's see about this lady who's hiding here. Nifri. The Orlan hovers by the window, peering out of it every few seconds. As you enter the room, she watches you carefully, her hand hovering over her stiletto. She cranes her head to peer behind you. Anyone follow you? Who sent you? Well, somebody told me you were responsible for about 9 or 10 murders. Promane, we can't shell this village to the ground. That's a war crime, actually. Someone told me you're responsible for a bunch of murders in Defiance Bay. Let me guess, was that someone named Medrith? She draws her stiletto. It's a lie, plain and simple. I got on the wrong side of his employers, and now he's after me. But if you're here to do his dirty work, I won't make it easy on you. Relax, I want to hear your side of the story. What story? The Dolmenals came. Oh, the Dolmenals. Okay, I'm gonna go kill that bastard then. Okay, I just happened to rob the wrong place. How was I supposed to know they'd already claimed it? She runs her hands under her hood and through her hair. It was an honest mistake. I'm just trying to survive now. And if you spoke with Medrith, you know where he's waiting. Please help me get out of here. Alright, east you go. She nods slowly. Alright, I'm trusting you. Don't have much choice. See if you can send him the other way. That should buy me some more time. She follows the hooded figures toward the stairs, giving you a final uncertain glance as she passes through the door. The Dolmenals are the big... The Dolmenals are the big local crime family, so anything to screw with them, you know. Alright, nothing else too exciting in the inn. Looks like just this noble looking for his daughter. No idea where she is, other than that she ran away, probably, so... I'm not actually sure whether it's too far from shore or not. I think it probably is. We're here. Shore is here. But distances are a little tough to calculate. Alright, what else we got here? Blacksmith across the street. Winfrith's Arms and Armory. Seems smaller on the inside, honestly. I guess it just does not include the section that goes that way. Alright, Winfrith.
Well met, friend.
A portly, smiling man stands behind a warped wooden counter, polishing a buckler. He looks up. Haven't seen you before. Always glad to see a new face in town. Company's good for business, and chatter's good for the soul, that's what I always say. Anyway, what can I do for you? What's going on in town? Oh, we're a quiet little town. Not much happens here, especially not since the legacy hit. People realized they couldn't have babies and just stopped trying altogether, and that takes a lot of excitement out of the day-to-day, if you can believe it. You know where Elise is? Well, that lord's got you asking around too, eh? He grunts. At least you ask politely enough. Bad enough having a small army move into town, then they start throwing their weight around and telling you your business. He shakes his head and clucks. That's the problem with these lords. They think their money and their family name entitle them to some kind of special treatment. Expect everyone to fawn over them the way their servants do. No, sir. That's not the kind of people we are, not in the Deerwood. We broke away from it to get away from that kind of nonsense. If they think... He goes on a little, doesn't he? Look, I see why you feel that way, but I'm just... Do you know where his daughter is? Of course. I was just getting to her. Clears his throat. I haven't seen her. Not since she went missing, anyway. Thanks. She mostly kept to herself. She shrugs and wipes the buckler again. But you know how women are, always carrying it on, full of palaver once you get any two of them together. Perfectly harmless, mind you, I'm not criticizing. Just feels like they never run out of things to say. That girl seemed rather quiet, downright shy if I do say so, but even Hendina got her talking. Just goes to show you. Bro, stop criticizing women for never shutting up. Hendina? I should not have asked more questions. An alchemist. Runs a small stand near the center of town. Talented lady, but she had a run-in with some worms not long ago. She's lucky it wasn't that ogre that's been running about. Took all of Rumbald's pigs the other day, did you hear? But don't get him started. He's still sore about the subject. And once you get him wound up about that ogre and his pigs, he just won't stop talking. Yeah. Hard to target accurately when you don't have, you know, a nice survey map. Okay, what do you have for sale? Okay, well, he's got some real, expensive equipment. 2DR, athletics, deleterious alacrity of motion. Boots of zealous command, huh? That's good for a paladin. Maybe I'll take those. That's good, too, for if you're a chanter. We've kind of got a lot of money, so I can grab pretty much whatever within reason. I don't see a super need for this, even though it's enchanted. Alright, what about these 4 fancy things? Spear. 10 accuracy when below 50% endurance, 20% damage, 25% crush damage. It's quite a spear, but nobody I have really uses them. Rod, 20% damage against prone, stunned, or flanked enemies. Okay. Not bad. The Hours of St. Rumbalt. Crits inflict prone. Accurate 3. Pretty good, but we actually have a pretty badass sword nowadays too, so... Yeah, that's a pike. Which... pikeman known as Tall Grass. Adorable. It is exceptional, but nobody uses a pike either. I'm gonna buy this stuff. Now Palagina. These boots are for you. And Kana, this is for you. You have this, which is nice, but this is better. It's more specific anyway. Okay, who wants intellect and resolve then? I have my protection cloak. Probably a Loth. He doesn't need health, really. Will is good. I don't know. We'll think about that. Well, who's this? No, just a soul. You see a forest clearing, fog curling through the weeds on the ground in the cold morning air. The serenity of the scene is occasionally broken by a faint noise that echoes through the silence. This woman emerges from the trees and stops, dropping to the ground. She creeps to the edge of the clearing and crouches near a tree. She glances around furtively, listening intently in the growing light. She presses her back to the tree, tensing against it, ready to spring forward. From the distance comes another sound, a rustling in the undergrowth. At that, she shoots forward, keeping as low to the ground as she can. She puts a hand to her throat and and makes a sound, a shrill bird call, but what emerges from her mouth seems to emanate from yards away. From behind her, near the source of the rustling, there's a brief grunting noise that's quickly silenced. She dives into a large bush at the edge of the tree line, keeping her head down and wriggling silently through the leaves and twigs. She takes a position in the bushes, turning to face the direction she came. She raises her hand again, this time mimicking a stelgare, placing the roar directly behind the man, failing to sneak up on her. More than one voice answers this call, all of them sounding panicked and hurried, all of them quickly moving this way, all thoughts of stealth forgotten. She backs out from under the bush to crouch behind it. As she pulls her bow from her back, she takes a shooting stance, and waits for her hunters to appear. Well, rough for them. Yes, the pike is basically... This game appears to be set in pretty much the pike and shot era. There are actually guns, but only basic matchlock types. So pike and shot is the way to go right now, but there's only 6 of us, which is not enough for a decent pike formation, so... Buddy, they clearly don't know.
Ooh, there's an odor that could sear the memories from your skull.
Antelope horn. Alright, into the tanner's shop. Let's see if that's, anything interesting in here. Losing things.
What's
Bunch of
this,
vats
Itamak?
Oh. Itamak sniffs something. A key. Oh, is that what they're talking about over here? Found it, guys. Dyes fill the wooden vats. They smell of dung and plant matter. Congrats, guys. My perception is so good that I just passively solved the thing you're arguing about. A sturdy, broad-shouldered man wipes his hands on his slacks. He reeks of the same foul compound wafting from the vats, and his arms are stained with dye. You looking to purchase some leather? Rumball mentioned something about an ogre. Well, he's hardly been talking about anything else since those pigs of his went missing. The whole town's been worried about that monster. People are starting to see shapes in their windows at night, hearing its growl and the snoring of their mates. It would put a lot of minds at ease if someone got rid of it. He scrapes at red pigment under his fingernails. I sometimes venture into the wilderness, collecting ingredients for my dyes, mind you. I've seen tracks east of here near the river. Couldn't have been anything else. He wipes a splotch of dye from his elbow with his shirt tail. Something else you need? Yeah, you know anything about Elise? He shrugs. Only that her father's men have been banging down doors and stirring up trouble looking for her. Never met her myself. What's in the tower? Oh, it's collapsed. Nothing. He rolls his eyes and shrugs. A few hides on stretching racks and the tallow stench Dengler's always grumbling about. The rest of the keep's dust, just like the fool Lady Thanu who tried to hold it. There's the bard at the inn who will tell you the whole blazing story if you want to hear it. What do you have for sale? An exceptional quality dagger, some very nice hide armor and leather, troll hide belt. That's kind of decent. Probably not better than what we already got, but I don't know. Regenerating endurance, only very slowly though. Yeah. This is good hide, but I don't know if anybody really wears. Yeah, damage reduction 9. Hide. Minus 25. Let me check our inventories. What do you? Oh yeah, you only have fine hide. In that case, that's just a straight upgrade. Let's buy it. Oops. Take a set. We are filthy rich, so it's not really gonna slow us down much. Where did that just go? Oh, perfect. There you go, Scotty. One suit of hide armor. Would anybody else benefit from this? It's actually just a flat-out upgrade on my armor too, but only in terms of speed. I'll just stick with what I got. It's not better than a Loth's. Nor his. Nor hers. It would be nice for me, actually. I can afford it. Inventory. Hide, there we go. Okay. So there's nothing in there. Oh, but I have your key. Right? Sorry. Don't go in there without telling him, I guess. Interesting. Actually, how am I supposed to get in there? What's the point of the key? There must be something interesting in there. Did you kidnap the guy's daughter? We'll come back there. That's a little suspect. Might have to wait for somebody to lure him out or something, though. Alright. Potions for sale. Potions and... Oh, okay.
Hail,
worm
traveler.
encounter. A young woman leans against a wagon. One arm and one side of her face are covered in bandages with raw, rippled flesh showing underneath. A minty, tangy scent wafts from her dressing. She smiles painfully. Just ventured into town. I'm about dry on some of my stocks, but you're welcome to have a look-see. What happened to your face? She turns her face to the ground. By the flame, how bad does it look? Just say it. I know you'll tell me straight. It looks like it hurts real bad. She laughs ruefully. That's a mighty soft way of putting it. I've been keeping an eye on a drake's nest east of town at Dyrford Crossing. The beast stayed just long enough to lay a clutch and moved on. Thank the Sky Mother it wasn't a full-grown dragon. She looks at her bandaged arm and grimaces. Fresh eggs are much more useful than the ones that get passed between merchants or left in nests for weeks or more, and that clutch looked to be at its peak. Thought I'd see about getting an egg, but I didn't realize how many of them had already hatched, or that young worms were so territorial. What's so special about the eggs? Well, they're one of the strongest tonics known to Kith. If you leave out Carol-Golan, of course, not saying anyone should take that. But dragon eggs are known to make Kith bold, purposeful. Some even think they'll protect from Beowicks. She shrugs. All I know is, everyone's pining after potions made from dragon eggs. Yeah, checks out. But the damn roads. Can't reach none of my suppliers, so I'm stuck with whatever I can scrounge up in the wood. Deer cap, river reed, and the like. Well, I could probably get an egg for you. Sounds like an adventurer kind of thing. She keeps her gaze steady, but you see hope kindling in her eyes and twitching at the corners of her mouth. I sure hope you're not leading me on. I don't think I could stand getting burned again. Ha ha ha. She bites her lip. If you really mean to go after it, I'd certainly pay you. Just remember, big as they are, dragon eggs are fragile, and there's a lot more I could do with a whole one.
Welcome.
She adjusts one of her bandages. Anything else I can do for you? I got some handy ointments if you're braving the roads anytime soon. What's wrong with the roads? A noisy disgust rattles from her throat. Brigands, looters, you name it. The gods may be hollowing out our babies, but it's grown folk that's rubbing out the rest of us. People are scrambling to Defiance Bay because they hear there's healthy births there, and all those refugees and abandoned homes attract desperate sorts like flies on dog shit. Unfortunately true. Alright, what about Elise? Oh, that Lord's daughter. She was a new shade of green when I seen her the other morning. Chatting with Triggle she was, just outside his... Okay, he lied to us then. Guess he said he'd never met her in his life. We're gonna need to get into that tower. What was wrong with her? She tugs at a bandage. No offense, but I hardly know you. I'm not one for gossip, and I certainly don't want to cause the poor girl any trouble. Was she pregnant? Maybe. Yeah. She laughs. That were no road sickness. Trust me, I know it when I see it.
Good day, stranger.
Okay. Beginning to see why the hasty betrothal to someone in a backwater town. And why the Lord was so insistent on it. And why she was sick. It doesn't quite explain why she went missing, though. Triggle might have something to do with it, though. Okay, the egg. It's in a nest perched in a cliff on the east end of Dyrford Crossing. It's out in the wilds just east of here. I'm sure there's others elsewhere, but the one at Dyrford Crossing's just the age I need. You head out that way, be careful. The place was crawling with worms when I went out there, and I can't imagine they've gone anywhere else. Alright, what do you sell? Jars, vials, bundled paper packets. Pretty basic potions and stuff, mainly. I mean, health potions, but we'll be fine. Dragon egg, you say. Okay, anything else to talk to around here? There's people with strong souls. Let me just poke around up here first. It's not a big tower. It is half collapsed, but I bet you there's something in there that he doesn't want us seeing. I don't know. That's just how they walk. They walk loud.
Let's see what lies this way.
Is that better? They are not battle mechs. Dayton McLean. Whoops. You see this man in the middle of the forest, back against a tree. His head's turned and he strains to hear something. He turns his head the other direction and slowly slides down the tree, ending in a crouch. He cautiously moves forward, keeping to the shadows. His steps are silent as he gingerly places his feet between twigs and leaves. A grunting noise echoes through the quiet morning, and shuffling footsteps rustle as they approach him. He cranes his head around the trunk of the tree and spies his target. He edges his way around the tree, keeping it between him and his quarry. The shuffling comes closer, the grunting now accompanied by a wet snuffle. Bracing himself against the tree, he holds his position, waiting. Then with almost supernatural grace, he pushes himself from the tree and swings around it to the right, practically running along its trunk, floating as he moves. He lands in front of the boar, rooting its way around the clearing, his knife flicking lightning quick across its neck. Before the startled animal can even react, he leaps onto its back, squeezing his knees into its sides and gripping the hair at the back of its neck. The beast starts to buck and tries to run from its attacker, but the man merely holds on and waits for the inevitable, enjoying the thrill of a hard-earned feast, thinking about what herbs would bring out the boar's natural flavors best. In seconds, the struggle's over, and the thrill's gone, replaced with the same dull craving that brought him here in the first place. It's left him faster even than the last time, and already he thinks about how he might top it. Oh, this man's a future serial killer, isn't he? Also, nobody try to kill a boar with a knife, please. Thanks. Hero. You see a man stumble, unfamiliar vestments tripping him. He pushes himself to his feet unsteady and continues along the empty road. His lips are chapped and dry, skin glazed with dust, but something about the set of his jaw tells you he has far yet to walk. As night stains the sky, he stops, whispering a fire into existence with the help of some wood. He attempts to sleep, staring into the stars. He continues in this fashion for several days, only occasionally drinking water from a goat skin as he moves. It takes him days to reach the temple, and when he does, his knees falter and give way, crashing him to the ground. The monks take him in, and he shares his tidings, meaningless to anyone but them. And when he's recovered, he begins anew. His stride strengthened with food and rest, mind clear with meditation and purpose, and a long way yet to walk. Alright, fair enough. Can I circle around this side of here? Villagers, villagers. Grieving Mother. Okay, she appears on the map, which is usually what companions do, but it's weird that she doesn't have a name. We'll talk to her in a second. Just see if there's anything else. Alright. What's your deal? This middle-aged peasant woman is dressed in a brown leather cloth draped down to her knees. Her hands are working at separating stringy, colorless vegetables in a pile before her, stripping off the heads of the long, fibrous stems with a paring knife. She discards the stems one by one, placing the heads of the vegetables into a small, cradle-like basket in front of her. She doesn't greet you as you approach. You're not sure she even knows you're there. Excuse me. The woman doesn't respond. She keeps stripping the heads from the vegetables with a steady rhythm. She may be deaf. There's no indication that she heard you. Let's just stand here creepily and study her. At first glance, she seems nothing more than a middle-aged woman. Unremarkable. Maybe less stern than most. Seems more focused on the weaving in her lap than her surroundings. Yet you suddenly notice she's not stripping the vegetables before her any longer. She's weaving, and the vegetable pots are now missing. She still pays you no mind, her brown locks torn and snagged from lack of washing like many of the townsfolk you've seen. There's a strange blur to her. Even the motions of her hands seem to be playing with threads that lack color, in a shape that lacks interest. It may be that she's half-minded or deaf, but something feels wrong. As you watch, her knitting takes on an odd cadence, and you have a terrible suspicion that something lurks beneath what your eyes are showing you. Her brown hair is long, almost impossibly to the length of her hands. As you follow the streams of her locks downwards, the hairs become long and black, splitting off into threads of black and silver and wrapping around her hands. She's forming a soul cradle with the threads, braiding a net in front of you, each figure long and sharp like a series fingers long and sharp like a series of knitting needles, almost hypnotic. The silver and black strands of her hair weave together, with silver predominating as a highlight, the black shadowing it. And suddenly, you're calm. You're on a plateau, almost the height of a tower, several stories high. The plateau is like a table lying beneath a clear sky, and beneath the plateau, surrounding it in all directions, a forest hazy with mist. Although whether it is actual mist, or distance, or a recollection, resting in the curve of a natural arch above you is a great copper bell, half again the size of a man, hanging at attention as if looking down on you and the event unfolding before you. The plateau has soaked in the sun, and the rock beneath you is rough and warm. The sky forms a cradle around you. You feel different, not disembodied, but you feel your body. Your physical contours have changed along with the surroundings. And you hear a soft series of chimes like wind chimes. At the sound, the scene gains color and texture as if the sound is beckoning you gently forth, filling your senses and thoughts like mist roiling softly into a sealed chamber. And the chime coaxes you deeper into the memory, and you're certain it is a memory, a warm one. You're on the stone of the plateau, your knees on the warm texture of the ground, silver, white, shimmering like Adra. The plateau is formed of it, glistening in the sun. You can feel the heat on your skin, your wrists and your hands. Your hands are in motion, weaving, not thread, but gathering, tenderly moving along the first movements of brass wheel. Your hands are wet. Your hands are upon the flesh of a newborn child, and you feel the crowning of a tiny head turning in your grip, its head slick, wet from the womb. The hands you're wearing, inhabiting, have done this many times, and they're practiced and confident. You can feel distant pains in your own head as the head emerges, a stream of fluid from the womb helping the newborn slide forth, and a woman's labored breathing, crying out. As your hands move, you hear the sound of chimes, clear, cutting through the haze of memory. You cannot see where they're coming from, but they're close, and they're meant as a comfort. Of that, you are certain. Coaxed by your hands, every movement causing the chimes to sound again. Almost eagerly, the child comes forth, and as it does, your hands are in motion, weaving, moving along the length of a soft, wet rope. No, an umbilical cord from the legs of the naked woman before you. You're holding a small child, still wet from the womb before you. The child cries out, its cry full of life, full of soul, the ringing of chimes echoing in its thoughts, filling it with its welcome. The soul is blurred at the edges, as if you're viewing a soul from within a soul. But it's there. It's alive. The woman before you is weeping, and at her first cry, her hands reach out for it. You surrender the child to her, something you've done many times before. And as your hands move, the chimes echo the movement, and you realize the chimes are hanging from cords on your wrists. And where once they echoed in the memory, they're now echoing in the child's mind as well. The chimes are intended to welcome the child, to be its first gentle greeting into the world, a soothing sound guided by the tender motions of your wrists. You're helping to weave its thoughts, its perceptions, and the experience. The experience. The woman laughs with a ragged joy, laughing from a parched throat. Her emotions seem soothed, but the physical demands of labor have left her exhausted. But the child is here, the child is safe, and all atop the plateau is peaceful, calm, distant, flattening out as the memory persists. With effort, the scene bleeds of color, and your mind becomes your own again. There's no pull, no anchor, yet the sound of the chimes remains. As they existed in the memory, they sound here as well. And they're hanging from woven braids on the wrists of the woman before you. Even as your head is spinning from the touch of her mind, the sound of the chimes on her wrists is sharp and clear, as if coaxing you back to the real world. Canonically, we're just staring into thin air when we get visions like this, so from the perspective of our companions, it pretty much looks like a drug trip. The woman still sits before you, but she's nothing like what you first saw. She's wearing black, shredded garments that drape over her form like streamers. Her hair is streaks of black and run through with silver. Her age is almost impossible to tell. She simply feels old, like a crumbled watchtower. As she lifts her head to face you, you see that her hair is draped across the front of her face like a veil. What you first saw of her was a mental glamour of some sort, unconscious, and you realize what you see is not what the world sees, and you're perhaps the first to see her true self. Still, you don't sense a threat in the realization. If anything, you feel a sense of relief from the figure. You can hear her thoughts, and she's glad to at last be seen. Who are you?
I am seen, but the eyes of others do not remember. You were the first to see me as I am, the call stripped aside.
There's a light touch on your mind, a caress, and her left hand mirrors the motion of the touch, reaching up to the air between you. You hear the chime on her wrist sound, softly. Her hand moves as if pantomiming, resting on your cheek at a distance, and she speaks softly and slowly.
Your memories. A cadence of wheels on a caravan track. Fever. Questions by running water. Violence in a night's campfire. Arrows in the dark. And fleeing. Falling rock and cracking stone. And a storm. The storm.
Okay. She can read minds, apparently.
The storm that brushed you. Did its screaming wake you from your mind's cradle? Your memory of it is painful. Its cry is difficult to ignore. It's like a child. Many children crying out.
It is poetic, but it's also a description of how the game started, so she is on the up and up in terms of reading her mind. Yes, I encountered a Beawick, and it did something. Her hand withdraws shyly, the chime sounding softly once again. The woman stands uncertainly, as if she's been sitting for some time, or is too weak to bear her own weight. You notice her cheekbones are tight, her face gaunt, and while her stance is weak, she seems determined to stand before you.
You are able to see me.
It's almost a question. You suddenly realize she doesn't seem to know what you saw when you looked at her, the image on the plateau. Yet the image was so clear, so sharp, you're surprised she didn't feel you there.
To see me is a rare gift. A watcher's gift.
Yeah. I was in your head helping a woman give birth?
So many questions, thoughts, whirling like storm winds. That storm still roars through you, deep beneath your thoughts, yet muted and secret, like an underground river. I cannot tell if it is carving new channels, or eroding what keeps your true strength buried.
Not sure.
The fact that you
Second is a
could
good
hear
thing,
it at
maybe.
all, survive it, is something few have ever done. Your power will grow stronger with each soul you touch, as it allowed you to reach out to mine.
Well, I'm a mind reader myself, so unclear, but we could probably find out between the two of us. There's a silence, and although it seems to last for but a heartbeat, in your thoughts it stretches out between the two of you, like a pull between your minds. You blink, take a breath, and then you realize she wants to ask you a question, yet can't form the words, as if assembling them is painful, or there simply are not enough pieces. You wish to travel with me? You feel a wave of fear, gusted with the strength of relief, although oddly her expression does not change. Then fear dissipates, and you feel strength and certainty, as if the plateau from her memory lies beneath you, and a calm sky looks down upon you. Okay, found our last companion, I guess. What is she? A cipher. Well, she's got an interesting backstory. I'm not clear. Well, I'm not going to take her with right now, but maybe we'll use her in future. Apparently 8 is the total number of companions in the base game, because I just got an achievement for recruiting all of them. Alright, so the question now becomes, we have a couple of quests. We gotta go to Cleoban Relag, and we have to learn about her past, and we gotta look for information about her. We gotta find this ogre. The most obvious thing is we need to get into this tower. Now, how do we get there without pissing off the tanner? We have the key. We found it in one of his barrels. Oh, okay. Well, this might open up a line. Hendina said you two had met. He folds his arms, the smell of tallow and animal dung wafting off of him. Oh, did she now? What else did she say? She saw you talking. What was it about? Her father's dragged her out here to get hitched to some backwoods noble. She wanted an escape, all right, and I was happy to give it to her. Is she in the tower, alive and well? Or is she in, like, the clothes you're making right now? Oh, no. Oh, alright. We snuck across the river a few nights ago for some private time. Come to find out, we weren't exactly alone. An ogre, taller than Winfrith's tail, sprung out of the forest, and we were so lost in the heat of the moment we didn't notice it until it was upon us. It grabbed Elise and disappeared into the night before I could even pull my britches up. God damn it, man. Don't take this the wrong way, but you're a tanner. Everything in here smells like piss. Am I really supposed to believe that a lord's daughter snuck into the... Oh, we know the father. He's the lord we were talking to earlier. He's he told us to find his daughter, but or you mean Elise's father, I presume. Trickle scowls. Curb that clever tongue of yours. I'm afraid there's no right way to take that, stranger. Look, just tell me what really happened, buddy. Oh, yeah. Oh, that. Yes. No idea who the father of that would be. Probably not this guy, because that would be... They weren't here long enough for that to be noticeable. I don't repeat myself. Not for you. Not for some noble's toadies, either. He wipes his dye-stained hands on his trousers and turns back to his work. Okay. I don't know if I believe his whole story, but the obvious thing to do at this point is to go look in the wilderness. We gotta go out there anyway, because some guy separately told us to go deal with the ogre, so... We can go north or east from here. Although neither of those look... Okay, well that's the ruins. I think we need to go east. First, probably. Okay, yeah, Dyrford Crossing. Yeah. Thanks for watching, adventurers. New parts will be up every other day, or you can watch live on Twitch. If you did enjoy the video, consider leaving a like or subscribing. Have a nice day, adventurers. This is Sea Lord Janda, signing off.